Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching this brief ag forecast brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions. I'd like to start with a quick review of the month of October, and our first map shows the total precipitation ranks by climate district. And so this was a month where from the west coast into the northern plains, stretching across most of the Corn Belt and into the northeast, we were exceptionally wet. That included also parts of the mid-south and into the southern plains. There were a few places that had drier features overall, and I'm kind of highlighting a few of those places here, including the very strong rain shadow effect we did get in parts of Montana. But otherwise, what got us to this is what we're continuing to see right now. And generally speaking, we have very high momentum in the jet stream here coming into the North Pacific, and we continue to develop troughs in the Gulf of Alaska. Now, over the next week or so, we're going to have another one of these that continues to deliver quite a bit of rainfall to Northern California and the Northwest on the nose of that jet. But the flow of the atmosphere by the end of this week is going to dive into a deeper trough that gets down to the southern plains. We tend to get a lot of upper-level subsidence and convergence here, which produces high pressure, and I'll show you the effect of that. And it won't be until you get off the east coast that we increase our chances for heavier rainfall, but that's going to give us much of the eastern two-thirds of the United States a drier look over the next 10 days. And that's what you got here. This is the latest update from the European model. Look, you can see where that stronger flow coming into the northwest is going to really increase the precip into Northern California, coastal Oregon, and Washington. You can then see the sharp effect here of the rain shadow coming over the mountains. But you also see the effect of the higher pressure that's moving in. And so other than the precipitation that's going to form along the frontal boundary that'll get pushed farther to the south here, much of the Midwest is going to go over drier. Big pattern break from what we saw before. And we're going to see a big change in the Northeast as well here with some colder temperatures. Now, speaking of this temperature change, let's just do a quick review of October's temperature ranks. Much of the Great Lakes states into the Northeast had a top 5, top 10 warmest October on record, even despite the cool down at the end of the month. Same thing for parts of the lower Mississippi River Valley back into the south. All the colder weather was in the west where those deeper troughs had sat. Now, we saw that there's a bit of a pattern shift. We're bringing in the colder air finally into this area with that deeper trough, and that's why I'm looking out over the next 7 days, seeing everywhere in gray here, going to experience a low temperature that will be at least freezing or below. So this is going to hit a big part of the south and mid-south, clipping parts of the northern edges of the southeast into the Tennessee Valley, and then even getting, it looks like here into the Piedmont as well. So we've got cooler air that's coming in, and we can just kind of see it over the next 5 days, right? It's kind of getting let out in this direction. But let's talk bigger picture here, all right? First thing, building up a storehouse of cold air here to really redevelop deep troughs that stick around in this area for more than just a couple of days is something we haven't seen. The main effects that I have seen controlling this pattern moving forward has been the cold water that's sensibly cooling the lower atmosphere right here. You can see it better if I show you the ocean temperatures. And in the long-range video, I talk about all of the connections between the MJO, this La Nina, and other things, but I'm going to hit the highlights here for you in the brief forecast. La Nina continues to strengthen. The MJO has been favoring phase 1, which is over near Africa, or it's been phasing phase 5 and 6. It stayed away from phases 3 and 4, 7 and 8. Now, why am I telling you this? It's because that combination, along with the cold water that you see here, these things continue to redevelop these troughs of lower pressure in this area. That's what they're going to do, okay? So that means the high momentum flow coming on that gradient of the temperatures there into the northwest is going to continue. This La Nina is going to say that when these troughs do make their way over the mountains, we'll kick off an active Ohio River Valley storm track. This says we're going to probably stay drier than normal across the southern tier of the U.S. and over here in the southeast to the mid-Atlantic. That is what this pattern is going to do. It's that MJO resisting phase 7, 8, and maybe 2, 3, and 4. That's what's so important about what we're dealing with, and I cover that in the longer or the more in-depth video. So let's take you now to what the new November 10 to December 10 outlook shows. And I buy this. Wetter than average in the northwest. I think we're too wet in the forecast here, but systems will come out into the plains, into the Ohio River Valley, into the Great Lakes, and into the Canadian Prairie. I do expect to see drier conditions in Texas and along the East Coast as we, along the East Coast up to the Mid-Atlantic with this pattern. So I buy into this precip pattern for November 10 to December 10 pretty clearly. I think it's what's going to take shape. I think we're going to see about every 8 to 10 days a bit of a pattern shift, and therefore what I don't buy into is this map. So this is showing you that same 30-day time period in terms of temperatures. And what I mean by that is don't expect, most of the days to be warmer than average in the Central Plains, because we will allow cold air to invade and come through here. I just think it's going to be in a cycle about 8 to 10 days on, 8 to 10 days off. So it's going to flip-flop back and forth, back and forth. And all of that's because the MJO keeps crossing from being north of Australia. That's phase 4, 5, really 5, and 6. And then it's over there in phase 1. It just keeps going back and forth and avoiding the Pacific. That's what's key in this long-range forecast, which I'm showing you here. So again, there's the temperatures. Let's come back to the precip. I think this is a bit more spot on of a forecast. But as you saw, the next 10 days, we're not bringing anything in here. So this is going to come on mid-month, and I want to get to discussing that. First of all, what's going on in the near term? Well, let's use the high-res NAM to kind of get through it. We saw scattered showers in through this area today, and we're going to see overnight tonight that a lot of what we're going to expect to see in terms of rainfall through tomorrow morning is going to be on the periphery of this high-pressure cell. So it sits just like that. That's where the cold front's going to sit. So through tomorrow midday, getting into tomorrow evening, this would be Tuesday, and work on our way into Wednesday. It's a lot of rain in the southern plains to the mid-south, right in through here, all right? This is 5 a.m. Wednesday. Let's play on out through the day on Wednesday. This is now 9 p.m. Wednesday, getting into Thursday. So you see, it's all right in through here. That's kind of a poor drawing, but it's in this whole area, just to the south of that high pressure that we have our best chance at rainfall. That and the Pacific Northwest. Now to get the details beyond this, I'm going to flip over to our combination here of the GFS on the left and the European on the right. So let's watch that same time period again, okay? So getting through the day on Tuesday, there's Tuesday night, getting into Wednesday morning, Wednesday afternoon and evening. And now let's get out there where the forecast is going to begin with these two models. Thursday morning, there we go. Now what you see is that Thursday morning, there will be a boundary stretched right in through here. The high pressure cell sitting right back in here. Both models have it, okay? That's where we're going to see the wetter weather, maybe some snow at the higher peaks of the Appalachian Mountains. But most of the action's in the northwest, where the deeper troughs and the high momentum flow comes in. So through the end of this week, that's where the wettest weather is going to be. You notice that much of the rest of the country's drier. This is Friday night, getting into Saturday. Let's go out there to Sunday. You see the systems coming into the northwest. As we go from Sunday into Monday of next week, let's get in here. What you're going to start to see is that once we get out there, about the 9th and 10th, things start to shake up a bit. We start to see more low pressure develop. Look at the European putting a low right here on the 10th. Look at how we're starting to move the systems through the northwest at this point. And as we get out there to the 11th, that's when we start to see both models allowing something to take shape in the midsection of the country. In other words, the troughs are moving through, the higher pressure is moving east, and the pattern's unblocked. That's that high momentum in the jet stream and the shifting of the MJO that's given us this 8 days on, 8 days off kind of pattern. So let's look at the next 7 or 8 days. Put it down on in terms of numbers. Much of the precip that's here is all coming on the southern edge of that high pressure cell. Okay, coming into the west, this is all wrapping around the upper level trough. That's the European. This is the GFS. And I'll be honest, I'm really impressed with the placement. The models have this down, and they're consistent. Comparing the two of them, this is what you got. Remember, in these colors, the GFS is wetter, and the European is wetter. European seems to be digging a little deeper in the west into Northern California with the rainfall, whereas the GFS is taking it right here along the coast. And the European's wetter in the south and mid-south as well, whereas the GFS seems to be wetter in this part of the mid-south, getting over toward the Tennessee Valley. But that's not much of a difference. I like this overall. This is a good forecast. Now, what about week 2? Both models saying the same thing. So let's just look here at the European. By the time we get out to November the 8th through the 9th, 10th, and 11th, you see what happened there? We took that trough that was in place here. We've now displaced it and had it come over the mountains. Now, you know that when you're on the eastern side of the trough axis, which is there's better upper level divergence. That means we're going to be starting to raise or cause the air to rise here, increasing our chances at precip. It's after November 11th, though. You see that 10-day pattern I'm talking about? So November 11th through the 12th and 13th, that trough digs in. And as it does so, it's going to displace the air, cause it to rise, and give us better chances of precip here. But what's interesting is that in the west, a big ridge does not redevelop. See it? The flow here resets with the trough that's out in this area, but the flow is doing something like that. It's not bubbling up into a large ridge which shuts everything down. So out there into week 2, watch this, you ready? Here's the next 7 days, stretching this through into week 2. You see the dryness fading? You get out there to fully show you week 2, there it is. We stay wet in the west, we get a more active pattern in the Midwest and Canadian prairie. That's how that trough moves across the country. That's what your precipitation forecast looks like for the next 15 days. Let's talk temperatures. We're watching right now freeze warnings in through here, frost watch over in parts, Virginia, getting into parts of Pennsylvania. We got winter weather advisories out here and on the Great Lakes where we're getting some lake effect snow already going. What are those temperatures doing? Well, we've already showed you at the beginning where we are. Let's go take a look at it, where we're expecting frost over the next 7 days. So I'm going to focus in on the high temperatures here. Monday's highs, we've already seen these, so let's get to Tuesday. There you go. Going from Tuesday into Wednesday and into Thursday and Friday. That cold air is coming down. Now behind it, a little ridge begins to rebuild late this week. So the temperatures here, look at this, in the northern plains are going to match what we've got all the way down in the southeast. Got that? So warmer conditions coming back here. Then we go into Saturday and Sunday, that cooler air exits and that ridge begins to rebuild. So if we look out there day 5 through 10, this is when the pattern begins its move, right? So the warm up comes back into this area. We return the moisture into this area. The troughs cut in, and that's where we start to increase the rainfall chances. It's out there at the 10th, 11th, 12th that begins to take shape. And we expect that to just progress east. That's what we're seeing out there through the middle of this month, all right? That is our forecast in the near term. We covered the long term at the beginning. And just a quick review, that longer term does favor an active jet stream pattern that's going to keep this area on this kind of changeover every 10 to 12 days. So I'll keep an eye on it. I'll keep reporting back to you, okay? Talk to you on Thursday. Thank you.